Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Play Sports Coalition call. We're excited to have you here. My name is Jeremy Goldberg, president of a company called League Apps. I'm honored to be part of the steering committee for this Play Sport Coalition. I'm joined with some other steering committee members, as well as our amazing grassroots advocate and lobbyist, Terry. And we're excited to give you an update about where this coalition's at and what we're asking of each of you today. There's a great Muhammad Ali quote I like: "Don't count the days, make the days count." And it's easy, especially in quarantine, to count the days. But today is about making today count, because we are on the cusp of an initial great start to our advocacy efforts. The Play Sports Coalition, came into being because we saw a huge opportunity to raise our voices as an industry, to come together at a time of social distancing, to amplify the great work that so many amazing organizations are doing, to let all kinds of voices from youth sports be heard, and ultimately to make sure our value is understood by decision makers. Last week, as of Friday, we had 500 incredible members of this coalition. Today, we have over 3,000 organizations that have signed up to be part of the coalition. And we're just getting warmed up, right? We're just helping people understand that we're out there, and you are a huge part of that. The individual efforts that so many of you have already made is already making a difference. And we're going to hear from Terry Lakowski from APS, who will explain what impact you're already having. Not only are there 3,000 coalition members, not only have 25 individuals activated in terms of reaching out to the Hill, not only have over 10,000 emails been sent and countless number of phone calls, but it's actually leading legislators to hear. We have 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats that are leading the charge here. And we have over 15 total members as of a few minutes ago that have signed on to take our request in and make sure that they're heard. And more will come thanks to your efforts today. So what we want to do on this call is not answer all of the questions about the Play Sports Coalition that some of you may have, because this is really the beginning of our advocacy efforts. Today is about making sure you can understand about the difference that you're in a position to make. And then over the course of the next week, we'll have additional conversations that'll help us understand, what's next in this legislative effort, what's next in the agenda, how can we continue to make sure that the needs of this community are met, and especially the families that are involved in youth sports. But today, again, is about making a difference around this initial request to help make sure that this industry survives. So I'm going to start by having Wayne Moss, who's been an incredible leader from NCYS, but also an incredible leader in the steering committee, to explain why he's involved and what this coalition is really about, because we got to center on that vision. We'll then hear a legislative update and explain exactly the actions that we're asking you to make. And then we'll hear from Kerry King from Triple Crown Sports to explain what he's been able to do to activate his network and how literally that's led to congressional members to respond to our request. So Wayne, I'll turn it over to you first. Help us understand what this coalition means to you, why you're part of this, and why today is such an important day in terms of your perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you. Thank you so much. I am super excited to be with this group. So great, so happy to be a part of this effort. And so, when COVID first started to kick in, it was clear that several things were happening. A number of us, I think throughout the country, getting concerned, paralyzed by fear. And then as we began to look at what was occurring, it was clear that the nature of youth sports as we knew it, as we know it, could go away. And so it was important for us to begin to take a stand, to begin to take a look at what we could do to help coalesce the youth sports community. So the National Council of Youth Sports, which has a number of members, a number of well-respected members, knew that we couldn't do this on our own as well. And so it was important for us to join in a coalition of the willing, if you will. And so we are excited to be a part of a group that really is elevating our voice in a way that I don't think we've ever seen before in the youth sports space. And so individually, it may appear that we can't make a difference, and I would even beg to differ with that. But collectively, I think that it's important that as we come together, we certainly can make a huge, huge difference. And so you pointed to some of the things that have happened just in the past week. We expect to see much more than that. Our membership is excited about participating, getting their members, their clubs, their affiliates all ginned up. And again, it's important for us to come together to speak with one voice in these particular times, such that we can really help young people in particular, but youth sport organizations to help our young people and get sports back on the map. We know back in the day in the 2007, 2008 downturn, there were a number of young people who didn't come back to sports. And this is that times 10, times 100. And so it's important for us to come together, to unite, one voice, one mission. Turn it back to you.
Thank you, Wayne. I appreciate you sharing that. And I think one of the places that we started was recognizing that if we can't have this industry survive, if the organizations that are doing incredible work in communities aren't around, if the facilities are shuttered, if coaches are fired and laid off, people can't stay in the industry, if people can't volunteer because they don't have time because of their economic circumstances, all of those things, I think, could make a huge impact in our ability to allow youth sports to thrive and make sure that families are supported and there's a return to play. And so that really kind of centered our initial legislative ask, which is really about a fund that would allow the organization to survive, because what we know is the design of the CARES Act wasn't designed for the way that youth sports organizations were part of, or the ways they could use those funds was too constrained to allow them to exist and survive, to be around to deliver the kinds of programs that were so critical to those communities. So I want to bring in Terry Lakowski and ask you, Terry, to share a legislative update, knowing that we have this initial ask around making sure this organization survives, the same way that the government's been focused on the airline industry or the restaurant industry or the banking industry or real estate industry. It felt important that they started understanding the specific needs and importance of the youth sports industry. So explain what we've been asking for and where we're at legislatively.
Yes, thank you. And thank you all so much for taking the time to join us this morning and for all the efforts you put forth so far. I have literally been blown away by the energy and enthusiasm, selflessness of this team who's come together during this really critical time to work together. I mean, we're all a bunch of athletes, right? So we know what it means to have a game on, and we know how it means to pull together and work. And let me tell you, right now is overtime. So we need to dig deep, get that second win, and keep fighting. So let me tell you a little bit about where we are and what we're looking to do. As Jeremy mentioned, we are focused right now on what's called a member sign-on letter. So we have the leadership of the Congressional Youth Sports Caucus, which we're so proud to have their support behind us. Congressman Kind, Congressman Veazey, Congressman Davis, and Congressman Armstrong have taken up the charge on behalf of all of us in the youth sports community. And they're advocating for us right now in Congress to ensure that other members can understand how critically important youth sports is. Right now, Congress is working on their next relief package, and they're focused on infrastructure. Well, what is more critical to the infrastructure of our society is ensuring that our kids have a safe place to go play sports when we know that sports leads to kids doing better in school, better social emotional health, staying out of trouble, right? There's all these benefits that comes from sports. And so we need to ensure that the infrastructure of sports, these youth sports providers, survive. And that's what today's fight is all about. And if anyone has ever told you it doesn't make a difference if you vote, it doesn't make a difference if you contact your representative, I can tell you from experience of these past couple of days, that is not the case. We have had such an outpour of support from our coalition who's written their members of Congress, who've made phone calls, and it's translated into action. I can tell you, and not to steal Carrie's thunder, but in Colorado alone, we've had over 400 individuals who've activated, and it's made a difference in getting members of Congress to sign on to this letter. So that is where we are right now. The Congressional Youth Sports Caucus, at the end of day today, will be delivering a letter to congressional leadership, Pelosi's office in particular, to say, hey, here is everyone in Congress who supports the youth sports community. That is why it's crunch time. We have the next couple hours to ensure we have as many members of Congress on this letter as possible. And the way we do that is they need to hear directly from their constituents, which is you. So we need you to act, and we need you to act now. We need you to write a letter. We need you to make a call. We need you to get your friends involved, your teammates involved, your coworkers involved, and have them do so, because collectively our voices will make a difference and get this letter in the best position as possible when it reaches the leadership's hands at the end of today to be successful in the path ahead. And Jeremy's going to take you through right now how we can go forward and do that. We have a coalition site that's come up, playsports.org, and we have links and ability for you to easily send letters and make those phone calls.
Awesome. Thank you, Terry, so much. So what I'm going to do now is just share my screen and explain to you exactly where we're at and to respond to the call that Terry said as they're making decisions of what congressional members want to sign on to this coalition. So as I share my screen here, what I think is important for everyone to understand is how easy it is to act. And I think what we're asking you to do is to take action yourself and then go to your network, whether that's the affiliates that may be connected to your organization, whether that's your coaches or your employees or volunteers, whether that's the families involved in your organization, whether that's other organizations in your area. But if we can mobilize, especially as coalition members, that's the critical ask that we're asking you to do. So the first thing I'll say is that we're, as Terry was mentioning, we've got some great members that are signed on, that are signing the letter, over 15 that have already responded to this call. And so what we really want to do is put you in a position to take the next step of contacting your representative. So here's how this is going to work. If you go to the Play Sports Coalition website, what we're asking people to do is take action, right? And we're not even focused today on growing and joining the coalition. As Terry mentioned, we have over 3,000 organizations are part of. So we're really focusing on raising your voice. And that means two things over the next 7 or 8 hours. The first is contacting your representative. And when you're contacting your representative, this is really directing them to email a note to their Congress. And it's as easy as putting in your information. And when you put in your information, it will pull up your elected representative. So I'll show you how this works now, and you can even follow along with me. If you go to playsportscoalition.org and click on take action, and you go to that action center, it will fill in and make that easy. So if you fill in your information, I encourage you to include an email opt-in so you get updates as well. Then you hit submit, and what happens is that immediately it pulls in a pre-populated letter that asks the receiving member to sign on to the coalition member. And in this case, because I have a home address in New York City, you've got Jerry Nadler, my congressman, as well as the 2 senators that are in a position to get the note. And then in addition to that, you can also customize that note if there are things that you want to specifically say about yourself. There's also a note that goes to the White House. You can make sure your name is signed, you hit some message, and you've literally raised your voice to Capitol Hill. And because as these are coming in today, and as there's someone in the office that's noting this, it's as easy for them to go say, hey, this is something to pay attention to. Take a look at this letter. Understand why youth sports is so important. And again, if we lock in that support now, it doesn't only just matter for this initial request, it matters for the broader coalition that we're building. Now, if you've done that, what's going to happen is you're going to get a second email that says, okay, thank you for sending an email. Now we want to take it up a notch and ask you to make a phone call. And so there's a second link that we'll also be sharing with you all directly today that you can also circulate. And this is the opportunity to make it super easy to figure out what's the phone number and how do I reach out. So if you fill out a form that's connected to a call campaign, again, this will be automatically emailed to everybody that chooses to send that email. Then you can go ahead and submit once your address is information. I took the liberty of putting my parents' information slightly modified here, and immediately it pulls up the information for the senators and congressmen that's there. So in this case, John Cornyn would be one of them, the senator from Texas. It gives me a phone number for them. And then you're calling up, and in most cases, you're going to get a voicemail. And so you're going to say, well, what big of a deal? It's a voicemail. But here's what happens. As Terry will tell you, someone in that office, job it is to check the voicemail, and then they keep a tally sheet of why people are calling. And so when they say, wait, 10 or 15 people called today about this letter that's involving youth sports and the challenges these industries having right now and the need for support and that no one's looking out for it, it gets them to pay attention. It is literally making a difference. And that explains the additional members that are signing on to the co-chairs calls. And then once you do that and you sign up, you have the ability to say, hey, you made the call, which just signals that lets us track that. If there's notes, because you actually talked to a person, you can add that and go on and say, what's the next call that you want to make? And then again, it pulls that back up. There's a script that makes it super easy, but the basic talking points is this. Right now, there's a letter circulating Capitol Hill that's led by 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats in the House. We want to give you the opportunity to join it. It's really important that the youth sports industry survives and thrives. It's such a critical part of this community. I'm part of this industry. I'm part of our efforts. I'm part of this community. I'm asking you as a constituent to pay attention here. And please consider joining this important effort to make sure that somebody's looking out for the youth sports industry. I even go so far as to say, hey, I know this congressman or this senator really cares about small businesses. They care about doing the right thing. They care about health, mental health, physical health, making sure there's not childhood obesity, making sure that kids have a chance in life. Youth sports is about all of those things. And so expressing that in that voicemail is enough to get them to make that tally mark and then communicate that back to the representatives that are today. So that's what we're asking you to do. Send an email and then follow up with a phone call. And then not only do that yourself, but ask others to do that as well. So I'm going to bring in Carrie King back into the conversation because, Carrie, you've done a great job of mobilizing your network. Literally, there are representatives in Colorado that are signing on or thinking about signing on because of the amount of feedback you're getting. Because when Terry and her amazing team are reaching out, they're hearing, wait a second, why are all these people calling the office? This clearly matters. Tell me more about this letter. So, Carrie, what are you doing and how can people follow your lead?
Yeah, one of the big difference, our HR director and I talked this morning, and just really quickly, I want to say thank you to the members that are on this coalition. It's very important, the work that we're doing to get youth athletes back to playing in the safe conditions, and your work is paramount these next couple of weeks to raise your voice in Congress for the relief effort and the safe protocols to return. These are very important features for the sports industry, and your efforts do really matter. One of the things we did here in Colorado was very simple, is we hosted a Zoom call just like this. In fact, Jeremy and Terry and I were talking yesterday, and we realized one thing we haven't done yet is talk to you guys. And we're working every day from 12:30 to 1:30 Mountain Time for me. I know in Eastern Time it's a little later for those guys, but every day the coalition meets and tries to do great work on behalf of the youth sports, the Play Sports Coalition. And today's effort included, with the Triple Crown staff, we did a face-to-face Zoom, and we basically showed them exactly what Jeremy just did. We showed them how to do it. That worked very well. They went and did the email. And then we asked them to make a phone call, and that really worked well. Within the first 4 hours, we had Joe Nagais, our House of Representative member in Fort Collins, Colorado, convinced, because we have Fort Collins, Colorado constituents that are all working at the Triple Crown Sports offices in Fort Collins, Colorado. So no longer did it matter that Triple Crown Sports had signed the letter. What matters now is that Kerry King asked Joe Nagais to support the Play Sports Coalition. That's a big difference from where the letter signing was to you now, and your voice is the one that matters. So our staff really did a lot of work to call Michael Bennet and Cory Gardner in the Senate, and they've received over 400 emails just through the system yesterday. And I know they've had hundreds of phone calls, and it's making a positive impact. Our media team also emailed our network. Our network is club coaches and team coaches. And those individuals, some of them have signed the letter, but they didn't know that they had to sign themselves up. They had to send their congressman a note, because it's at a different phase now. I can tell you there's an ocean of emails. The Play Sports Coalition is trying to figure out how to not do more of them. And every time you get an email from us, it may be like white noise. We realized we had to get in front of you guys as well. And so this is now our staff, because we've done so much work around this. We're sitting back and having fun now as a staff, watching the numbers grow. How many is today? How many is tomorrow? We're making a difference, and we're very excited to be a big part of Play Sports.
Thank you, Terry, and I appreciate you sharing all of those kind of concrete ideas. I want to summarize at the end and make sure that everyone understands a couple of very specific things that everyone can do. So one is, as a member of this coalition, your action and your leadership matters. So act yourself, right? We need you. It's not just about signing the letter initially. We need you to send that email and click on that link and send that email and make that phone call, right? That's the minimum we need for you. If everybody in the coalition does that and takes those actions, that matters. The second is get others to take action. Now, others can be any kind of constituent, right? It could be your family members. It could be your employees. It could be your coaches. It could be your parents. It could be other organizations that you might have relationships with. So how can you get others to take action? You can email that link. You can text the link out. You can even use your social media with things like Unite to Play, which allows you to kind of tag other organizations around it and say, hey, have you taken action in the Play Sports Coalition? You can even tag your representatives as part of that when you use the Unite to Play hashtag. So lots of different opportunities here for you to make a difference, and we want to make this as easy as possible. So that's what today is about. Again, as Muhammad Ali says, let's make the days count. And we've done an amazing job rallying our voices. The work that we're doing today, coming together, is not just about the initial possibility of victory and making sure that the interest of this industry and this community is considered as they consider additional legislation, but it's about a longer term conversation that Congress will pay attention to make sure that youth sports not only survives and thrives. And so with that, we wish you a great day. We wish you a great day of action. We're excited to see what this incredible group can do. We know what you can do on the field. So what happens when the playing field is in Washington? Let's see. I'm excited. I know Terry's excited. Wayne's excited. Carrie's excited, and the other members of the steering committee that are so committed to this effort. And we'll be back in touch at the end of the day to let you know how we did, and also let you know what's in store for next week as we figure out other ways to engage this incredible group. Thank you for inspiring us. Thank you for being with us together. It's amazing to see what we can achieve. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
See you guys. Bye.